in the world that there is a class of creatures, well spotted by a few, have not been proven to exist. We refer to these creatures collectively as unidentified animal, or for short, UMA. Hello everyone, and welcome to the UMA series. West Virginia in the US has never been short on monster legends, but not all stories are as famous as the Mothman or the Flatwoods Monster. Not all receive such widespread attention. In this episode, I want to share with you another humanoid cryptid that appeared in West Virginia in the mid-20th century, a mysterious creature known as the Grafton Monster. If any friends watching have played the game Fallout 76, then you will definitely recognize this image. It will be deeply impressed upon you. A headless monster, its body covered in muscle, its prototype, is the theme of our video today. The Grafton Monster. The game even uses this name directly. The story goes like this. On the night of June 16, 1964, at around 11 p.m., Robert Cockrell, a reporter for the Grafton Sentinel, was driving home. He was driving along Riverside Drive by the Tygart River at a speed of about 50 miles per hour. He drove this route almost every day, so he was very familiar with this road. At first, everything was as usual. However, just as his vehicle rounded a large bend, he habitually looked up ahead. There was a mile-long, straight stretch of road. His high beams shone on a manicured patch of grass on the right side of the road. Suddenly, he saw between the road and the riverbank a huge, white object. It was something beyond his comprehension. Cockrell quickly looked away from the creature and began to accelerate, only wanting to get away from that place as fast as possible. He described that, in his memory, creature's height was between 7 and 9 feet, and its width was about 4 feet. About that, its body had a covering similar to sealskin, and on top of that, there was a layer of a thin film. This thing had no discernible head, and as the car passed, it remained in that standing position, motionless. Cockrell stated that this was the only accurate description he could give, because, at the time, he was deeply shocked by the terrifying scene. After returning home, although he wanted to just lock the door and hide, as a news reporter, he knew that investigating news and revealing the truth was his duty. So, he immediately got up and went back creature to town and found two of his friends, Jerry Morse and Jim Mauser, to go back with him to look for that. But when they returned to that road, there was nothing there. They found that the thing had left nothing behind. They only found that the bushes on the nearby riverbank seemed to have been flattened by something huge. The search lasted for more than an hour, although they never saw the creature. During this time, they continuously heard low-pitched whistling sound coming from the riverbank, a low sound. That sound seemed to be following them, moving with them, but since the search was fruitless, they eventually gave up the effort. Cockrell was very certain, stating that this was not his prank or a fantasy. Moreover, the night was very bright, and he himself was not overly tired or feeling any emotional stress. The next day, on June 17, 1964, Cockrell went to work and decided to tell his editor at the newspaper about his encounter from the previous night, publishing the story as a news item. It was published on the third day, June 18th. An article titled, "Teens Hunting Monster Becomes Grafton's Newest Activity," appeared in that day's Sentinel. The general content was this: on Wednesday night, that is, the night of the 17th, several groups of teenagers, armed with flashlights, hammers, crowbars, and other items, were searching the Riverside Drive area. The description of the Grafton Monster is very similar to recent reports of the Michigan Monster. Very similar, except the Grafton Monster, young people, is much larger. These were looking for a -1 foot tall, 4 foot wide creature. Everyone believed it was a white monster with no visible head, and that it emitted a strange whistling sound. It is reported that local law enforcement had not yet paid attention to this issue. Some teenagers claimed to have seen the creature and provided accurate descriptions of the situation. The story was even embellished, claiming that the monster was first discovered in the Morgantown area and then traveled down the Monongahela and Tygart rivers to the Riverside area, One of the young people believed it might be an escaped polar bear, but did not specify where the animal might have gone. The Michigan monster mentioned in the above content refers to another mysterious creature sighted in Michigan during the same period, the Dew Lake Monster, a tall, humanoid creature with black fur, an animal. The Grafton Sentinel had reprinted a report on this incident a week earlier, on June 11th, but the descriptions of the two creatures still had differences. On June 19, 1964, the Sentinel published a second report related to the monster hunt titled Monster Comes from Spring Fever and a Wild Imagination. It stated that Grafton's so-called monster was a product of teenagers' imaginations. On Thursday night, so many people were wandering around the Riverside Drive area that even if there was a real monster, it would have been impossible. It was reported that around 10 p.m. that night, for it to appear, with many cars being stopped, so that people, there was a long line of traffic on the road, could join in the area's most popular sport in recent years, monster hunting. Since the first sighting, on Tuesday night, about 20 people had reported seeing the monster. On Wednesday night, about 30 teenagers participated in the monster hunt, but by Thursday night, the number had doubled. Some adults also joined in. Spring fever, the lack of local recreational facilities, and recent reports of the Michigan monster stalking humans all contributed to the birth of this imaginative story. The Sentinel's routine investigation showed that the monster story might have originated from a man pushing a handcart full of boxes along Riverside Drive on Tuesday night. Based on the two reports above, it can be seen that the media essentially did not believe in the monster's existence. They were more inclined to believe Cockrell's report came from the recent monster hype and a visual illusion. But Cockrell himself obviously trusted his own eyes. On July 10th of that year, he wrote a letter reporting the entire detailed incident to the United States and a visual illusion, but Cockrell himself obviously trusted his own eyes. On July 10th of that year, he wrote a letter reporting the entire detailed incident to the American paranormal author Ray Barker. The detailed witness account comes from his new description. In the letter, he stated that he understood the media's opinion and that it was true some people had mistaken boxes for the monster, but he could guarantee that what he saw was absolutely not that, and he had asked several of the people who claimed to have seen the monster and found that the locations and times of these incidents were not consistent, but some of the reports were consistent with the facts and had a certain degree of credibility. Like most UMA incidents, the Grafton monster's fame soared in a short time, and then, as people's searches came up empty, it quickly died out. It flamed out. No one ever really found this headless monster. The matter was thus shelved, and the Grafton monster only began to receive widespread attention after the start of the 21st century. In 2014, the American reality show Mountain Monsters, themed on cryptozoology, premiered its second season on the Destination America channel. One of the episodes was specifically dedicated to an investigation of the Grafton Monster. In the film, the crew claimed to have received a strange piece of video footage that might have captured the famous monster. The video is as follows. This video came from a farmer in Grafton named Wolf. He captured the footage while filming for a buyer his herd of cattle. That's when he caught the above scene. Through the video, we can vaguely see what appears to be a large, bipedal, standing dark figure moving quickly through the woods. Wolf stated that when that thing passed, the herd of cattle was startled. It moved very fast, and Wolf could hear the sound of bushes being crushed. And the story of the Grafton monster has been circulating in this area for a long time. This incident convinced him that the monster exists. Another hunter named Dale claimed that a camera placed in his USUAL hunting area captured this image. Although the photo wasn't complete, you can still see an oddly shaped object in the bottom right corner. At night, the show's crew followed the direction provided by Wolf to investigate. They captured this footage with an infrared thermal imager. Immediately after, they also found the remains of a devoured CLF. In light of this, they decided to build a trap and place food to lure the monster, but it ultimately ended in failure. The team said that while tracking it, they could occasionally hear what was allegedly the monster's roar, but it never appeared in the camera's field of view. Based on the theories hyped by the newspaper at the time, the imaginations of young people, or a visual error with a handcart of boxes are undoubtedly reasonable explanations. But the polar bear hypothesis is relatively hard to imagine. I couldn't find any news from that time about a zoo or circus polar bear escaping after the incident was reported to Gray Barker. His speculation was that this creature might be a type of organic probe from outer space. He also stated that most encounters with mysterious creatures are the result of aliens deploying animals to monitor Earth's environment, just like how we humans sent dogs and monkeys at the beginning of space exploration, and that the low whizzing sound was likely the creature's ships retrieving them. This theory is very avant-garde and bold, and it also gave later people a seemingly reasonable direction for their reasoning. This includes the views expressed in the Mountain Monsters show, which are similar. Some people might think the creature has already left Earth through a wormhole or was taken home by extraterrestrial life. But there are also people who insist the creature has not disappeared and still wanders the Grafton area. But the problem is, Gray Barker's reputation as an author, some say he is not good. What's more, a complete and utter fraud, especially according to American journalist and writer John Sherwood, a self-proclaimed friend of Barker's, in his 1998 publication, Gray Barker, My Friend, the Mythmaker book, and his 2002, Gray Barker's Book of Bunk 2, works in which he criticized Barker, saying the material his pen touched was filled with self-serving deception. He created hoaxes, joined others' hoaxes, and manipulated people's beliefs. Another of Barker's friends, James W. Mosley, stated that Barker treated almost all of ufology as a joke, and so on and so forth. But regarding this, I personally will not offer an opinion, because almost all such statements seem to have appeared after Gray Barker himself passed away. So, besides that, the show Mountain Monsters is also notorious in the cryptozoology community. Some people dislike it because of its portrayal of West Virginians, continuing the stereotypes people have of rural and Appalachian culture, but most importantly, for its fraudulent behavior. On Facebook, there is a local blogger named Grafton Monster, who stated that the actors in the show botched the script. Its content has zero credibility. Their exaggerated hunting performances make the entire story and the town look foolish. The film crew didn't even go to Grafton at all, and the so-called local witnesses that appear, the people of Grafton, have never seen them. By 2014, that incident had happened 50 years ago. Most Grafton residents have no memory of the event. Many young people never heard of it. While growing up, when the incident happened, schools were already out for summer vacation and didn't start until September. By that time, the panic had already subsided. In that era, there was no social media to constantly remind everyone. Main reason is that if you didn't grow up in the town or read the newspaper when you were young, you simply would not know about these things. Regarding this part of the commentary, I personally agree, because Mountain Monsters, the reality show, in my opinion, is indeed rather exaggerated. Almost all the characters in it maintain this kind of image. In every episode, they film or find the latest video evidence of these mysterious creatures. Note, that's every episode. So, although the show had been running for 8 seasons by 2022, the information in it is not reliable. Of course, most viewers are just watching for fun. The shoddy special effects don't seem out of place in such a show. However, the show also drew the dissatisfaction of the original witness, Robert Cockrell, which ended this unsolved mystery. On April 23, 2014, the new iteration of the Sentinel, the Mountain Statesman, published a letter from Cockrell. In the letter, he praised the monster story for being interesting enough to make people chase his footsteps on warm summer nights, and that the so-called monster didn't actually exist. Back then, there was a man named Tommy Bittis, who was locally famous for riding his bicycle everywhere. On the night of the monster sighting, Bittis was riding his bike in the dark along Riverside Drive. His back seat was piled high with boxes. And that was the truth of the monster. Cockrell stated that the newspaper editor's intention was not to publish a sensational story about a fictional monster, but rather, he wanted to write a news story about local people taking action because of a fantastical story. This was the second article in the Sentinel at the time. Looking at it now, this report did indeed focus on describing the danger of the crowds flocking to the area. Cockrell also mentioned the 2012 book Monsters of West Virginia by American author Rosemary Ellen Gilly, stating that the book's description of the Grafton Monster story was mostly fiction. The quotes from the young reporter were also fake, and the Mountain Monsters show was even worse. Finally, he asserted that the monster never appeared at all because he was that young reporter who had been associated with the monster's birth for 50 years. Sorting through the story to this point, the result is already very obvious. This is a classic news hoax. It must be said, this incident did indeed spark people's imaginations and created a distinctive West Virginia story, including the later Mountain Monsters and the Fallout 76 game. From another perspective, it has become a part of the region's cultural heritage. Like Mothman, monster festivals and related merchandise also followed suit. But I believe the most serious mistake in this matter was the newspaper deceiving the public as an important local media outlet, using such methods to attract crowds completely disregarded safety issues. In that era, if a large number of people continued to hold monster hunting activities with melee weapons or guns, plus their heightened state of mental tension, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Alright, the story of the Grafton Monster is full of drama, and also shows us that in the process of transmitting information, the truth can be distorted. People's imagination and curiosity are also powerful forces. This reminds us that when facing such a known phenomena, we must maintain rational judgment and self-reflection, and not be driven by fear and desire. In the end, it's the same old saying, the unknown is always greater than the known. This is the charm of Yuma. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching.